Hello and welcome to Roadmap 2023, where we track key issues and persons in the run-up to the general election. I'm Ladi Akiriduluale. Thanks for joining us. My guest today on the program believes that assessing issues and persons in this campaign season requires a deep look back at history. My guest also accuses some of trying to rewrite that same history to suit present political expediency, using many examples. Roadmap 2023 speaks to former governor of Nigeria's Edo State and former chairman of the All Progressives Congress, the APC, now Deputy Director General of the party's Presidential Campaign Council, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole.
Your Excellency, thank you for your time. Welcome.
Thank you for having me again.
Let's, you're back, you're just back from London, and I like the fact that you alluded to again when you said thank you for having me again. I remember in the run-up to the last election cycle, we also had you, and we're fortunate enough to have you once again. You've just returned from the British capital. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's the first major campaign outing outside of the outside of the country. What was the experience like?
I think it was fine. It's a very structured affair. They have their rules, as they say, the Chatham House rules. And again, as you will expect, even though it is hosted by British people, but Nigerians in diaspora are probably far more interested in what is happening back home. And I believe understandably too, because most of them, beyond the economic issue that they remit so much money back home to their parents, to their loved ones, and acquaintances, which runs into several billions of dollars, you see there's no place like home. So if we, for example, watch CNN to find out what's going on in America, even if we have no interest in America, citizens, but because of the impact of America in world politics and economy, it's no surprise that Nigerians in diaspora are very much keen on what is happening at home and who get elected and why, and, what they are to expect. So it was a good outing, I believe.
While you were away, of course, in the immediate aftermath of the outing, there were those, of course, who observed the event. It was streamed live. A lot of people were watching it as it was happening and all of that. And a number of people raised the questions, some questions. I know that you spoke at the event, not the formal event, but on the sidelines of it. You spoke to one or two media organizations, including ours.
Did they use it?
That's how I saw it. That's how I saw it. But one of the things that was raised, which appeared to be contentious, had to do with the fact that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the candidate, spoke at the event, and then when it was time to take questions, he delegated a number of people, and people thought, why? Why should he delegate a number of people? He was there. He should have spoken directly to some of those questions, particularly the ones that came from Nigerians, as you said, who were living abroad, or some who went specifically for the event. What's the thinking behind that? I know, you are a key member of the team, so perhaps you could enlighten those who raised the objections about, why should the candidate not speak to Nigerians? Why should it be members of the team?
I think we can categorize those who have raised objection to two. Those who are used to a particular pattern or who expect a particular pattern, and those who will never find anything good in what Asiwaju says. There are people who, in my opinion, some of the electoral media, I think some have already casted their vote for who they want, even before those people release their manifesto. Because I heard a candidate release a manifesto last week, and yet we were told opinion poll says that those candidates have won an election for which nobody has been told what they were going to do. And they celebrate them with such fanfare. So for people like that who are already fixated as to who they want, regardless of their policies, there's nothing Asiwaju is going to say or do, or abstain from saying or abstain from doing, that will change their mind. So when you see the anger I'm like, wait a minute. Do you want to take Panadol for my headache? The purpose of this electioneering is to offer Nigerians a basis for choice. If your preference, your style is that you prefer to vote for somebody who purport to know it all, and who will be the president, he will be the minister of defense, he will be the minister of internal affairs, he will be the coordinating minister of the economy, he will be the minister of finance, he will even double as central bank governor, and therefore he should speak to issues of headless devaluation of the naira and all the shocks that we are witnessing here and there. It's your choice. If on the other hand you want a president who recognizes that he has responsibility not only for the overall management of the economy and delivery on social policies, particularly as a progressive, people-focused, pro-people government, and you're going to be the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, even if you have never been in the army, not even in the police, but you will command the armed forces. It's up to you whether you want to now speak like a general in order to show that you master the armed forces very well. And if so, people will say, we've had generals as presidents, and it is other one of the first general, you will know the general from the Southwest, who was presiding when Boko Haram started. And another non-general, who was also commander-in-chief, was there when 18 local government were taken over by Boko Haram. And it was again under that commander-in-chief of the armed forces, in charge of police, army, security, including secret service, DSS, that 200 young Nigerians were abducted from Chibok. And for 2 weeks, there was debate in the villa whether or not this was a fake news or whether or not it was genuine. Abuja was so the Nigerian government was unable to accept that people were kidnapped. So I think what Asiwaju chooses to do, and I use the word choice, is to show that he's not going to run a one-man show, and that the diversity of Nigeria should be a source of strength. And he will start by showing that in every part of Nigeria we have brains. So I want you to look at how he chose to pick those who he invited to speak. He picked people from the North Central, from the North. He picks a young lady from the South, from the South, and from different part of the country, and somebody from the Southwest. That was to speak to the fact that in every part of Nigeria, you have brains who what the leader needs, and which Asiwaju is very well known for, is his capacity to identify those who can get the job done. You know, and he provides the political will, provides the broad direction. And you will notice that, in spite of the comment by those people, he has his own views, which he also added to wrap it up. Now it's about style. If somebody tells me that one style is superior to the other style, I will say, not surprising, style is about choice. I was surprised that they move away from trying to force the clear message, which covers everything. In any case, he is the author of the renewed hope plan of action, which he has presented formally by himself to Nigerians. Now, if we call on somebody to amplify any aspect of it, does that really change the fact that that is his blueprint? And he's going to have, by constitution, 36 ministers, at least, or 37, if you include FCT. And each of them will be challenged with the responsibility of implementing each of the elements in that action plan. So I think it's about choice. But if anybody is thinking that Asiwaju was not capable of answering those questions, the person is being unfair. Because is this man a stranger to the issues in Nigeria? And what did those people say that is not captured very well? For example, when he called El-Rufai to speak about defense, it was a matter of showing that I will delegate authority. But in his plan of action, what El-Rufai offered as an answer was something very well captured in the plan of action, namely that at the end of the Civil War, Nigeria had about 250,000 men in uniform, Nigeria Army. And the Nigeria population was about 50 million people. Now, many years later, we are now over 200 million people, and that you want to more than double that to maintain proportionately per capita the number of military men in uniform relative to population. And the same is valid for the police. So, are you just speaking to these statistics the way one other candidate will do? No. He went on to say, to deal with it, there are two things we need to do. First, that we must double or more than double or triple the number of men in uniform in the army, do the same thing for the police, and even the Directorate of State Security Services, because we now know the power of intelligence. In addition to providing modern technology, information system, using technology like drone, etc., to ensure that Nigeria is properly secured and policed. This is captured in the plan of action, which Asiwaju by himself spoke to the day he presented it. And that will help you to achieve three things. First, if you put additional 250 or 300,000 men in uniform, you will have created doable, pensionable, sustainable jobs in the armed forces, in the army. If you extend, or in the military, if you extend the same principle to the police, you will have provided pensionable, respectable job for about 350,000 Nigerians. And if you then tickle with DSS, between the armed forces alone, you can generate 1 million jobs immediately, train them, equip them, and challenge them to secure the country, and challenge the army to return to their traditional role of defending the territorial integrity of Nigeria, and if necessary, get involved in internal security issues where insurgency has assumed a level that requires military intervention. There was nothing El-Rufai said that was not said by Asiwaju in his presentation of what he rightly chose to call the plan of action, which is extracted from the broad manifesto of the APC.
It would appear as if the APC Presidential Council doesn't want its candidate to debate or to engage with the other candidates without preconditions. Would that be a fair assessment of what has happened?
I don't know what you call precondition. I'm not aware of anybody asking for opportunity or asking to interview the candidate and he gives a precondition. I'm not aware. But you have to consider that of all the candidates, the only person who thought the media is a very important institution is Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the APC candidate, by reasons of the fact that he made investment in nation newspapers, which has played a critical role, and you look at their editorial policy sometimes and their news coverage. Oftentimes, they are not flattery of the government of the day. They do their job very professionally, which is why they are read across the country. He also has interest in TVC, so we hear. So he's not someone who doesn't appreciate the role of the media, and therefore he needs to be tutored. But, like I said, not a few Nigerians, and you can do the opinion poll by yourself. There are a couple of electronic media in the country. Unfortunately, some of them, one or two or three, seems to have already made its own mind. Not only are they politically affiliated, it appears they also have casted their vote. And it makes strategic sense to say, I am not going to persuade someone who has already voted. I guess that might be the issue. But this does not include your station, for example, Channel Television, who, from what I watch and I have heard, is the most admired media station in Nigeria. And it's not easy politically to try to maintain neutrality. That even when you criticize constructively, and you try as much as you can not to descend to the arena. Because when, like a judge, descend into the arena, then the lawyers will ask, wait a minute, do I really need to provide more argument before this judge? He seems to be the one who is putting us on trial. So a good judge, not necessarily free from his own opinion and evil biases, has to find a way to conceal his bias in order to allow the parties to persuade him, which is why at the end of the day he will say, based on the evidence before me, not necessarily based on all the fact that he thinks. So how a TV host is able to conceal his preferences and his biases, which we all have, I think that seems to make the difference. And people also want to see, if you are, like the US, I'm not sure how many times I've seen a US president walking into Fox, a Democrat, walking into Fox studio to have an interview, because Fox position is so unapologetically, they are not apologetic about their affiliation and support for the Republican, such that President Trump could do no wrong, whether in office or out of office. The same thing you will find CNN, which try to be more liberal. You know, many will say, I think CNN is basically pro-Democrat. And when you also watch their commentary and everything, it is difficult to reach a different conclusion. So the media has a huge responsibility, which cannot be downplayed or trivialized, to educate, to enlighten, and to inform. People like me, coming from my background, I have said this many, many times, that I found that when national interest is at stake, the Nigerian media takes a position most of the time. When I was president of NSC, for example, you know, when the media is going to, when the president then invite the media for editors meeting with media executives, and we hear all kinds of stories about such lunch with media executives. I, as NSC president, I also had huge interest in getting the media on my side, but I'm not able to attract that kind of lunch. But then the following day, I see editorials written by these same editors that are, in my view, very constructive, very direct, and pro-Nigerians. And so I didn't bother after some time whether they come every day for media at to honor the president's invitation, because I know that the media knows that a lunch or a couple of lunches is not equivalent to the long-term interests and prosperity of individual editors and publishers. So personally, I have no problem. Again, you have to understand, the tolerance level of individuals matter, or varies. So, but I can tell you, I don't want to over-labor the point. I don't think our candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is media shy, not at all.
Now, a number of the things you mentioned in this last answer would speak to some of the reservations that a number of people have. And I don't sit here trying to defend the media in any way. But I guess part of what has happened is that some ill-intentioned, no doubt, one can admit that, but some speaking to reality when they point out some of the things. You also mentioned some of them, the questions of security, about unemployment, and some of the other policies. And a few would say a lot of these things happened or have been exacerbated under the APC in the last almost 8 years. in which case, perhaps the question to ask by someone who's listening to you on this medium would be, a number of these things, if they happened under the APC, why should we give them another opportunity when perhaps they will be continuing along this trajectory which has not been beneficial to us? What would you say to people like that?
Today, there is not one local government, not to talk of 18 local government, that is under Boko Haram control. In fact, it is now accepted that the guy who was running Boko Haram crazy, is it Shekarau? Shekau and his group, many of their commanders have been wasted. And Boko Haram has been decimated. There's no question. They no longer have that arrogance, that power to hold on to a particular territory. They are now looking for soft targets to attack. So, APC has made progress. President Buhari, APC under President Buhari has made huge progress in that regard. Number two, I don't want to sound, because I'm not in the defense team. My business as a Deputy Director General of APC campaign is about what will we do differently in 2023.
Yes.
Not as a defender. I'm not skilled in defense. But you will agree that President Buhari, whether you like it or not, has also delivered on very, very important area of infrastructure, like the construction of the second Niger Bridge, which PDP could not do in 16 years. He will commission it by the special grace of God before the elections. And look at it, it's a beautiful bridge. Not just a bridge, there are other adjoining roads adjacent to the bridge. You'll also agree that if PDP has made such huge progress in infrastructure with revenue, oil price going as high as $140 a barrel, they could not build the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. My brother, whether you like it or not, Buhari has managed to make a big statement on that. It is under Buhari's government that he also taught us one lesson, which has been a problem which media talks about, all commentators talk about it. Not to be shy in proceeding with projects started by one administration that they couldn't complete, or it was not properly designed, and as a result it was abandoned, to dust them up, reinvest in them, and bring them to conclusion. Like, you just, I don't know why you choose to reveal it, though it's not a secret. You made an issue about the fact I just returned from London, but I'm not a foreign minister. I was at the airport today, Abuja Airport. It's beautiful compared to what it used to be. And I proudly look at who commissioned it, President Muhammadu Buhari. He completed that project, Abuja Airport. He's done one in Lagos. He's done one in Kano. He's done one in Port Harcourt. He's done one in Enugu, completed this project. If we have a history of what government building on what he thinks his predecessor started well, even if he couldn't do it, make more progress of it, and decide to pursue it to conclusion, for God's sake, concede it. Number 4, the last person who tried to do something with railway, to my recollection, was my late uncle, Brigadier Samuel Osagbovo Ogbemudia, when he tried to revive the rail. And that was under Abacha, I think, who made him, he was a minister under Abacha. A year after, the rail was completely abandoned. Jonathan tried to kickstart it, but not much progress. But Buhari made good his promise. Because I was a member of Council of State when the issue of Abuja rail was being discussed, whether it's viable or not viable, with Sambo as vice president to Jonathan. That project was completed until we had these unfortunate security challenges. I know many senior advocates who live in Kaduna and handle cases in Abuja, and they just take advantage of the rail system. And today, as we speak, people board from Itakpe all the way to Edo State.
You mentioned it when you said you are the Deputy Director General of the presidential campaign.
Yes.
which is that you are highlighting what will be done, not defending what has been done. You're looking forward. So that is one aspect of it. But the other aspect of it is that this entire process that has led to where politically we are, both as a country and even within the APC, has bruised some people. And I dare say you are one of those who's been bruised. Today, you are in the campaign council. I guess a great deal of reconciliation has taken place. But as you said, we must not be selective in our memory. We must go back and look at things. A number of people were hurt by this process, even before the election primary season took place. You were one of them.
How?
One of the reasons that was given for your removal was that, and I'm talking now in your role as national chairman of the APC, had to do with the fact that some of the gladiators who either wanted to throw their hat in the ring or wanted to back someone to throw their hat in the ring felt that your friendship with the man who is now candidate was not going to enable you as national chairman give them a level playing field, and that was why they moved against you. But yet here we are. Of course, we also know that in the course of the primary season, leading to the primaries, there were a few other people who threw their hats into the ring and got burnt in the process, let me put it that way. You know this as well as I do. I'm wondering, one, how much of a reconciliation has actually taken place? Because, I mean, as human beings, we know that it's not easy to forget if you are stung. The person who stings you may forget, but you who got stung may find it a bit more difficult to forget. So how much of reconciliation has taken place? That's one. And then secondly, in going ahead and talking about what is now to be done with the current challenges that we face, what is going to be done differently? But I want to talk about that reconciliation first.
Okay, first is that there's nothing to be reconciled. You see, I'm proud of the fact that there's one or two things I think I share in common with Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the candidate. That is building institution, not for me, but building institution that will enable Nigerians to have alternative political platform so that political contestation can take place and move Nigeria away from the danger of a one-party state. And that was why, as a second-term governor, I emphasize second term. As a second-term governor, I participated along with other ACN governors in reaching the decision to form a merger with CPC, ANPP, and a part of ABGA, so that PDP's long-term strategy of turning Nigeria to a war-party state is defeated. And we created an alternative platform that led to the defeat of PDP after 16 years. For me, that's an achievement. Number two, I never aspire in forming APC. My objective was not to become the chairman of the party. It was just to create an alternative platform which still exists. And, you know, a couple of things happened so that we realize that in life, it's not so much what you plan for that you get. God decides what to give you, and sometimes he uses people to do it in the manner that only he and he alone can explain. I found myself being approached to become the chairman of the APC. It was never in my dream. And I'm proud that, like I've done in every situation in which I've had opportunity, check my records, when I had the opportunity as president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, and our mandate was to checkmate abuse of power and ensure that public policy and government economic and social policy choices are such that it delivers the greatest good to the greatest number of Nigerians. I fought as president of NLC alongside Nigerians, including non-labor people, you know, to challenge and provide what became known as, seen increasingly by many as the unofficial opposition to the then PDP government. And I'm happy that in the course of that stewardship, the then president, who I respect very much, but I disagree with some of his policy, had to do a national broadcast in which he said Oshiomhole was running Nigeria Labour Congress as an alternative government and parading himself as if he was alternative president. I am not going to accept that. He virtually charged me for treason. So any job I have, I take it seriously, because the purpose of labor is in recognition of the fact that no ruler is too good not to have a countervailing force that can question some of his assumptions. And sometimes the higher you climb the ladder, the less you can see on the ground. And majority of the people, unfortunately, are still at the grassroots. They do the voting, and after the voting, they hardly get to, they don't have access to the villa, and so the manipulators of the levers of power often see themselves as the people, and the gap can arise between popular aspirations and what government think is appropriate policy. I did that. Now, we formed the APC, and I became, I was asked, and I was quite happy to accept to chair the party on the understanding that I was going to start my authority on the leadership of the party, not to go business as usual. That is not my background. My background is to affect situations differently. And that is why I never lament what doesn't work. I see everything that doesn't work as a challenge to my person and all those who believe that things are not working well to commit themselves to facing those challenges and turn them to opportunities. I'm happy that as president of the APC, as chairman of the APC, I got my party re-elected with a bigger margin between President Buhari and the first runner-up, Atiku Abubakar, 4 million votes. Between him and Jonathan, it was 3 million votes. So I like to claim credit for it, because if we have lost, I would be accused of, or rightly described by someone who led this party to defeat. I led my party to victory at the executive level. In the two chambers of the National Assembly, namely Senate and Rep, I led my party to victory. We had more senators than we had before. We had more reps than we had in 2015. We had more in 2019. Under my chairmanship, I am on record, whether anybody like it or not, as recognizing the fact that I convinced my colleagues and even the president that when we say party supremacy, it should go beyond proclamation. The party should provide support to those running election on its platform, not just collect money from them by way of expression of interest and payment of funds. So whereas under my chairmanship, the president paid for the form, I think about 40 million. In launching the second level manifesto, which cost about 150 million, you can ask the vice president, they sent me the bill, and APC under my chairmanship paid for the bill for launching and all the arrangements that were done to launch the next level, which was the campaign slogan for the second term. And every APC senator that contested the election on APC platform while I was chairman, we extended the grant of 20 million naira to each of them, 109 senators. And for the House of Rep members, we paid 10 million naira each to each of the 360 House of Rep members. And my argument was simple. People express interest, and they pay money, and they get cleared, and they contest on your platform. And some of them are not so rich, but the party had the resources arising from this collection of forms, etc., etc. The money is not to be put in a savings bank. It's to be used to advance the interests of the party. And I was convinced that we can appropriate these funds from the party coffer and yet run the party as if, without having to go cap in hand, begging anybody for contribution. And it paid off. Now, when we now got majority elected, I had the moral standing to talk to the senators to say, look, after consulting with the leadership of the party, including the president, this is the person we prefer as Senate president, and this one as Deputy Senate President. Same with House of Rep, Speaker and Deputy Speaker, and later the principal officers of the two chambers. And I think the senators, in fairness to them, and the House of Rep members, particularly those who have been there for long, said, in their life, in their political participation since 1999, before I became chairman of the APC, no party has given them 1 naira Instead, they are the one who pays. Whether anybody like it or not, those who benefited, many will remember, but I, who gave, never forget. Now, you talk about those who are bruised, the way I left the office. It's okay to talk about how I left. I wish I left differently. I wish I had the honor of resigning. But it doesn't matter. The important thing is, now, another point I must mention. You recall that in 2015, even though we had comfortable majority in the two chambers, the party was unable to project the person it favored for Speaker and Senate President, Deputy Senate President and Deputy Speaker, to reflect, quote, party position, which was why we ended up with Senator Saraki of the then APC as Senate President, and we end up with the PDP, my dear friend, distinguished Senator Ekorimadu as Deputy Senate President, which is very unusual. You have majority, but you couldn't manage the majority such that you now have a minority of your party go into alliance with a minority of the other party and defeat party position. To my credit and that of my NWC that I was privileged to lead, working with the party, developing capacity for robust consultation to build consensus and a sense of ownership and agreement, we got a letter of the APC under my signature, read on the floor of the National Assembly, and that prevailed. So today, Senator Ahmed Lawal and all the APC members of the principal officers were the result of our effort. The same thing Bajabi Amila will tell you, that I called him and I said, after consultations, you are favored. We're going to do everything to ensure that this materialized, and it did. Same with Deputy Senate President, same with the Deputy Speaker. Those are things that, whether anybody likes it or not, those are facts. Now, whether I am bitter, why? It's not how far, but how well. I speak to this achievement with excitement. Nobody, political historian, who will look at the last part of APC, its formation, its challenges, its achievement, will fail to acknowledge this. Now that I should forgive anybody, nobody wronged me, because I lost the office. I didn't lose I didn't upgrade my questions. I believe that a leader should sit on the fence. That is my style. And I was happy if I had any reason to complain. That the issues were resolved by everyone, because those who came in as caretaker ended up wanting to become permanent leaders of the party. I saw on channel television a governor calling another governor in the caretaker Yahoo governor. Those were not from me. I would describe a governor like that. But that is what happened. So if you watch, at no time did I show bitterness. Once that decision was taken, I said to myself, I'm not going to challenge it. It is simplistic to think that because one party or a particular president on a party platform didn't solve all your problems, therefore you should go back to the party that laid foundation for insecurity, that mismanaged our oil well, that could not build River Niger Bridge, that confessed, according to Atiku Abubakar, on Channel television, saying that he is very emotional, how they spent $60 billion between himself and President Obasanjo to fix power, and they couldn't fix it. And now their own President Jonathan came in, dismantled, privatized distribution, and create fresh crisis. When they can distribute, they cannot generate, they cannot distribute. When they can distribute, they cannot generate. The only mistake you can blame us for is not having to revisit the privatization. I said so, but I was told that there is a law that we can't review. Happily, that period has passed. And if you heard Asiwaju in London, he said, we're going to have to review the power sector, because nobody is going to be able to talk about generating jobs without returning the manufacturing sector. And you can't have a competitive manufacturing sector that is run on diesel. You can also have a citizenry that has to generate individual power for themselves. No. And he also talked of other things that I thought we were going to talk about. A couple of things that I have spoken to before, and I believe so now, still, that under Jonathan as president, a PDP president, this issue of spending so much money on one item, petroleum product, that, in my view, people are just hiding under it for self-help, and we have to review it. It is not the subsidy that I was fighting against, because that Obasanjo, with Badamasi as the chairman to negotiate with us, the figures, we could put our fingers on it. At what time it was 30 billion, 40 billion. I think the highest I ever had was 50 billion. And President Obasanjo would typically say, look, comrades, with 50 billion, I can do these kilometers of road. And now we typically answer, out of 1 trillion budget, what is the percentage of 50 billion? We earn X billions. And now, that is billions of naira, not of dollars. We earn X from oil. This is just less than 15% of your oil revenue. So talk about opportunity cost. We can afford this. It doesn't stop you from doing other things. Now the figures are 6 trillion. And our candidate has said he's going to put an end to that. And that will save us 6 trillion naira, which, if properly invested, will create jobs. Talking about how to fund the costs of expanding the armed forces, the police, the SSS with the area of security, looking for money to sustain investment in critical infrastructure without which you can't have sustainable economic growth and development. You need to do something about the persistent stealing of crude oil, which I fought against as governor, and I think we should continue to fight it. We can't take it as a given. And now recently somebody revealed how a particular pipe has been there cutting away millions of liters of crude, into big ships. And I have argued when I was governor, and I still hold strong to those views, that it is impossible without collusion from the Nigerian Navy and JTF for a ship to be in Nigerian waters for 2 weeks, and it's being fed by flat bottom shuttle ship to feed the big ship, and the oil is scattered away. No, that is not acceptable. And I said, and I know that Tinubu will do that, if I make you my chief of naval staff, and I challenge you with all the problems facing Nigeria today, monitoring our waters is a big issue. Don't give me excuses. No big ship, no small ship to come to Nigeria waters, cut away our oil. So there are 2 ways to check this. Besides getting the military to check breakage of pipelines and other things, is also to make sure that those who steal the oil, they are not able to do so without a huge price, both for their ship and themselves. And there was a time when Russians were arrested, and I was scandalized under PDP government when the Russian authorities make requests that if Nigeria needed support for membership of United Nations, they should subpedal on those Russians. Look, if you know what I know, you will not have the luxury of... So these things can be fixed, and they have to be fixed. And I think we just need to, as I used to say, we need someone who not only step on toes, but even chop them off if they become obstacle to progress. Because Nigeria has reached a point that we either fix it now or never. But in all of this, please don't forget, Buhari saved Nigeria when we were really, really in serious difficulty. We shouldn't forget that. Buhari has accomplished a couple of things in a couple of areas. It is true, Buhari hasn't fixed all the problems. It is true, new forms of security has evolved, which, if you ask me, I think they are the delayed consequences of what successive government failed to do many years ago. For example, who are the bandits? Although some religious bigots, tend to confuse us, the truth of the matter is, those we refer to as bandits, for want of proper name, are people, in my view, who the country had dehumanized as young children, denied them access to education, spread out their life begging, living from hand to mouth, order the tree, order the weather, nobody cares. They probably can't locate their parents, and now they are in their maybe late 20s, late 30s, not educated, and they have to survive. They no longer can survive on begging. Even if they want to survive on begging, those who can give arm are getting fewer, and then they decide to resort to what we now call banditry. Now, the long-term solution, as I just spoke to it, is that we must recognize that in the 21st century, we're not going to have al-Maziri as a given, that every Nigerian must be entitled to, beyond formal legality, because you have universal basic education, compulsory education. The logic of that is that if you fail, if you must have a child, you have a duty, legal duty, not moral, legal duty to ensure that that child goes to school, at least up to primary school level. That's the logic of compulsory universal basic education, which is a law. Now, as what you have said, going forward, this al-Majiri, we need special attention. We have to clean it up. They must have access to quality Quranic education. It is their right to understand the Quran, to be able to worship according to the revelations of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, they also need skill to cope with the rigors of life. If someone is good at something, acknowledge it. For now, Nigeria is more important to me than any political party, because I have children, I have grandchildren. I wanted to inherit a country that works for all, where ethnicity, religion is a personal issue. What matters is that we are Nigerians, and everybody has a reason and a basis to remain loyal to the Nigerian nation, because it offers all of us hope. If I put party and other pettiness over and above these core national challenges and be fair and be unfair to myself, because the Adams gene has now been reproduced, not only by my children, but my children have also reproduced grandchildren.
Comrade Governor, it's been an exciting time. It's been an interesting time. It's been a reflective time. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Okay, I appreciate this.
That's our program today. We would, of course, like to hear from you on the conversation. Our social media handles are right there on your screen. You can also listen to this and previous episodes of the program via our podcast. Please visit our website, channelstv.com, to get started. I am Ladi Akiriduluale. Goodbye.